Welcome to the Coffee House, where we discuss board games, miniatures, and painting them, not necessarily in that order. If any of those things appeal to you, consider subscribing down below and giving this video a thumbs up. It seriously helps the channel grow. Let's dive right in. So this is episode 5 of Painting Cthulhu, Death May Die. This is the first of many winged creatures that we're going to tackle. There's going to be no real surprises here. Again, for the wings, we're going to be utilizing that wet blend technique. It's a super easy technique that if you've been following along, you've seen me do it a couple times now. And if you're painting along, you see how easy it is and what a wonderful kind of illusory effect it gives. It kind of really brings things to life in unexpected, beautiful ways. That's really the only major technique that we're doing aside from slapping some paint on the model. So I'm not going to ramble on, and we're just going to dive right in. So here we have our Byakhee all primed in gray. Full gray coverage is what we were going for. So we're going to start with his flesh, and we're going to use the ochre clay speed paint. And we are going to generously apply this on this model. This model is very textured. It's got a lot of crevices, crannies, and nooks, so you want to be a little heavy-handed with the paint on this model to make sure that it all pools in the correct spot and you get the proper shading and contrast, which is what we are going for. Front, back. We're going to stop right above the cheeks, because this model is a CMON model, so of course it is all cheeked up, but that is going to be our delineation on where to stop painting, and you will see why we're stopping there momentarily. But for now, that's a good stopping point on where to cut off the paint here. Make sure you get the tops of the shoulders, the side of the neck, underneath the neck. Again, that's another spot that's got a lot of those nooks and crannies. So you really want to make sure that you are getting a lot of paint in those areas. As you can see, we're getting the top here. Full coverage, baby. And of course, the head. Now we're going to cover about 90% of the head. There is a ring around his mouth that we are going to leave white for now, or gray, I should say. There's going to be no paint in this spot. And again, you'll see why momentarily, but other than that, you are going to cover the rest of the head in this paint. Now we're going to switch over to Tyrian Navy, and what we're going to do is we're going to start wet blending with that Tyrian Navy. So we're going to finish coming down the arm to about midway down the forearm with our ochre clay. And you want to make sure it's good and wet. And this is one of those times where you want to make sure that you are moving relatively quickly, because we are going to be wet blending, and these speed paints dry fast, so if you're not moving quickly, you're going to have a bad time. Now we're going to switch over to that Tyrian Navy, and we're going to start at the bottom of the hand, because we want the bottom to be fully that color. And then we're going to slowly create a gradient as we go up the arm. So you want that bottom dark, and then you're going to go up into the green. And then you're going to start pulling down. That ochre clay greenish color, you're going to pull down into the Tyrian Navy. And what this is going to do is it's going to create a nice, smooth, blended gradient effect. This model did not want to stay in focus. See, it's got that nice blend. And then I finished the bottom of the hand with that pure Tyrian Navy. And then we just repeat the process on the other arm. You're going to go down about midway to the forearm. Make sure you're working relatively quickly, because you want that paint to be as wet as it possibly can for that smooth blend. And then we switch over, and my camera goes out of focus again, because why not? And we start at the bottom with that pure Tyrian Navy. sure to get that good coverage on that hand, and then we start going up, and then we start pulling the ochre clay into the Tyrian navy. You're pulling downwards. You're always pulling downwards on this model when you're mixing the two colors. Down, down, down. If you need to add more of the ochre clay, go ahead and do that. And I know I just said we're always pulling downwards, but I lied. Sometimes you gotta fiddle with the blending. And we're gonna repeat this same process on the legs, which is why we stopped where we did earlier, right above those cheeks. Get that full coverage with that ochre clay. And we stop right about the high point of the calf, and then at the bottom of the foot, we get that pure Tyrian navy until we get up to that calf point, and then we start pulling down. Up, down, up, down, up, down, 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 down. Repeat the process on the other leg. Doing the exact same thing. I'm going to go about halfway to the calf with that ochre clay. And then we're going to have that Tyrian navy in full color at the bottom and work our way up and combine the two, pulling them into each other while they're still wet. Up into that calf. Up and then down. Down, 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 pulling that ochre into the Tyrian and vice versa. I decided I wanted to go up a little bit higher. So I pulled it up just a little bit higher, but your end result should look something along these lines. Now that little area that we left along the mouth, we're going to take that same Tyrian navy and we are going to hit it. You can hit just about everything. The only thing you don't really want to hit as best as possible is that beak there. If you can leave that whole, do your best. But if you can't, it's not a big deal. We'll fix it either way. I wanted to make sure you got really good coverage here. You really want to make sure you get some of that Tyrian navy to pool into those crevices along the mouth, those creases. We're going to take some aged hide. We're going to put that on our palette. And then we're going to take a little bit of our ochre clay onto our brush. And then we're going to mix it with the aged hide. And we're going to repeat this process a couple of times. So we're going to dab in that ochre, we're going to give it a swirl. And we'll dab in the ochre, and we'll give it a swirl. 2 or 3 times should suffice. What we're doing is we're just merging the two colors together. Now for all of the bony bits for this wing, the stabilizers, the supports, we're hitting with that full Tyrian navy. And you don't have to be careful here. In fact, you want that Tyrian navy to bleed over onto the flesh of the wing itself. Because, again, we're going to be wet blending. So we're going to take that aged hide mixture that we just created, and we're just going to slap it in there, and we're going to swirl it around. And you're going to want to merge the Tyrian navy with that hide color. You're pulling them into each other. And this creates a nice blended gradient effect that adds some really interesting, natural looking color gradients to these wings. So I've got that aged hide, and then you see I pull that Tyrian navy onto the wing into the aged hide. Not being super careful. You don't have to be super careful here. And we repeat this process on the back. Same thing. You can see that Tyrian navy slowly bleeding into the aged hide. And then on the other wing, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to hit it with that pure Tyrian navy. We're going to get that Tyrian navy on the wings because we're not being careful. And then we're just going to mix. It's that simple. There's no need to complicate it. We don't need to do anything fancy. We don't need to do any highlighting. We don't need to do any weird techniques. We are just wet blending. And it creates some of the most natural looking wings you'll come across. And it's exactly what we're going for with this model. You see me there, I dab onto the wing just to make sure that it's wet enough for me to blend and that there's enough there for me to pull into the wing. See me pulling that Tyrian navy into the wing. And again, we repeat this process along the back side. Same exact process. Now you do want to move again semi-quickly because you do want to make sure that that Tyrian navy doesn't have time to dry. Now if you're wondering why I'm spending so much time showing this process, because I just really want to make sure that you get it, because the wings are the highlight of this model for me. It's the attention grabber. Now as you're mixing and wet blending, there's a good chance that age hide is going to run over some of those, supports. So once you're done, just go ahead and run that Tyrian navy again over those just to bring it home. We're going to repeat that process, that exact same process between his legs. This model is like 90% wet blending, so by the end of this model, you're going to be an expert when it comes to wet blending. And then you'll wonder, why have I not been doing this whole time? Because it's super easy, and yet it makes such a big impact on a model. So now we're going to take ancient stone, and we're going to hit that beak. So if you got your Tyrian navy on the beak, no big deal. That ancient stone is going to cover it. Now, I didn't show it on camera because I didn't decide till after the fact, but I did, after the ancient stone, hit that with the bony matter speed paint because it was just a little too bright for my liking. So we go inside the mouth with the red, bright red acrylic, and we're going to dot these eyes, bright red. These are nicely sculpted eyes. There's no guessing here, and I don't know what it is about Simon and monsters, but the eyes are always super easy. Don't worry, we're not going to be doing eyes on the investigators. That's a whole other ball of wax. And we're going to do a stripe along the toenails here with that bright red acrylic. And along the claws as well, because we really want to make sure this guy's looking vicious. Then we're going to take True Blood Effect paint, and we're going to hit all of the inside of that mouth and along the top of the toenails and claws. And if you're wondering why we didn't just start with that, trust me, it wouldn't have looked nearly as good if we didn't start with that bright red base first. So then we're just going to take matte black, and we're going to black out the base and the rim of the base. And if you followed along, your end result is going to look something like this. Alright guys, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're painting along, following along. I hope you're learning things, but most importantly, I hope you're having fun. And as we're going through these videos, I hope that you're really starting to see that anybody can paint these models. It's not nearly as scary or as intimidating as it might be. That's the entire goal of this series. If you're having a good time, if you're chilling out about painting, if you're really enjoying this, consider checking out my Patreon, link down below. Every little bit helps me out, and for about the price of a cup of coffee, you can ensure that I keep my lights on and these videos keep coming. All right, we'll see you next week for the following painting episode. I appreciate you guys. I'll catch you on the next one.